Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Deep Thoughts. It's been a long time because I've been traveling, and holy Jesus. Jesus is holy. How about that? Babalu cigars. I'm telling you. These things are fantastic. I forgot to mention, too, you buy a box, it's 40% off. So you smoke an $8 stick, you buy a box, you get 20 for about $110. It's freaking amazing. Today we're going to talk about simplifying our lives, because you'll hear this a lot from people that are of a particular age. I haven't heard it from anyone really under 40, but I'm sure it happens. It's a very important process. And it kind of ties back to this theme that I talk about a lot, which is life just seems to happen to you, doesn't it? Life just seems to happen to you. And what happens is you get caught up in the way that you've currently, churning your life, and you realize, holy crap, I got way too much stuff going on, right? Like, I can't do all this in a particular day, but you try. You think, well, here's what I'll do. I'm really overwhelmed. I don't want anyone to know that I'm so silly that I got myself overwhelmed, so I'm going to pick off the big things or work on the small things or whatever. You're going to get your load down, and then you're just going to make a commitment to yourself. You're not going to get overwhelmed again. Sometimes that works. A lot of times it's not such a conscious effort to get overwhelmed, and so it's all sort of the little tiny things that you commit to that get you over the barrel. There's several elements to this thing called simplification, and I'm going to talk about getting in trouble first, like how you get yourself overwhelmed, and then we'll talk about some means of getting out, and we're just going to kind of go in and out around this sine rhythm, topic matter, subject matter, whatever. The first thing I want to say is go right at the guttural spinal cord of this problem, which is every single one of us are different. Every single one of us have different genetics. Every single one of us has a different diet, a different level of intoxication or toxification, meaning you put good things in your body, you put bad things in your body. To the degree you keep out the toxins, go see my episode on toxins, you can clarify your mind, and you will double up the speed of your processors that you have in your brain. Some people have a single processor that's weak. Some people have medium. Some of them have, very fast single processor. Some folks, although we're going to get into this because some of you are going to knee-jerk the latest trend in this thought process, some of us have multiple processors. There's been a lot of talk recently over the last, I say recently, probably about 10, 15 years, that humankind does not have the capability of multitasking. I've talked about it on the show. To the degree that you may or may not be able to process one equation at the exact same time as another equation, you might be able to convince yourself that's the case. Because you might try to push two active processes in your consciousness at the same time. Now, you have an autonomic system that runs your body. Your heart's beating, the blood's pumping, everything in your body is doing something at the exact same time. So you have this profound computer platform, which is the human body, that does all these things at the same exact time. We would say those are not conscious thoughts, those are subconscious automated thoughts, right? So here's how you have a multiprocessing capability. You have a subconscious, right? It is not in the layer of autonomic function, although there might be a little gray overlap there. But you can process thoughts in the back of your mind, churning them, right? Someone may have told you something outrageous, and you're simply trying to determine whether or not it's real. So you have to process it in your subconscious because there's only so much you can do in your consciousness before you got to get up, take a shower, go to work, all that stuff, right? So the reason why I bring this up is that you need to understand, and it's going to take you a little while, unless you've spent some time trying to dissect this in your own life. Give yourself some time and feel how you process information. Feel how much command you have over your brain in terms of processing data. Now, it is true a lot of people will say they're good multitaskers, and you can look right at them and go, I don't know what you think multitasking means, but it doesn't mean what you're doing, okay? But some of you will think about it, and you need to know how much you can process at one point in time, because it's going to be the cornerstone of how much commitment you can take. All right. Then there's a day. Everyone has a different type of day. Some of you are up 18 hours because that's just the way you like to roll. Some of you are up merely 16 hours and you get down for 12, or at least you're not processing things productively for 12. There's no right or wrong way, so do not feel that you have to hold up to someone else's standards. You have a biology, you have a diet, and you have a lifestyle. You live in a certain hemisphere of the world or whatever, region of the world, that will either make you tired or very energetic, right? If you live in the equator, for instance, and you're really, really warm all the time, there's nothing you can do about trying to fight the fatigue that comes with being overheated and warm. I know you're like, dude, like, just move on. But these are important things. These are the things that are always skipped when we're talking about the importance of what we're capable of doing as human beings. All right? If you're the exception to all these notions, not necessarily rules, then, man, just get ready, because, what you'll be able to get out of life is a hell of a lot more than some of us, right? There's usually two reasons why we get overwhelmed with our commitments. You have obligatory commitments that you believe exist, which are things that you're obligated to do. I must go to work. I must do this. I must pay attention to my boyfriend, girlfriend, my child, my parents, my friends. I must show up at these functions that I've signed up for because I go to church and I go to this cult business class in LA. Who knows? Then you have the commitments that you bring into your life because you are trying to be a good person. You try to help people. And there's probably very few things in life that have more reward and more beauty in them than you wanting to help another human being. However that's done. The problem is there are limits to resources. There are limits to the resource of time, as well as money. You probably have some obligations in your life that are obligatory, and so you must go home at some point in time, right? When you get overwhelmed, there's an incredible level of frustration, stress, and disorientation that happens to you when you wake up in the morning and realize what you've committed to. It goes from being a wonderful giving thing to being an absolutely overwhelming and sort of gut-wrenching, soul-destroying event when you get truly overwhelmed. You've gone past, the red line in your RPM gauge in your body. I've done this several times, so I'm coming from a lot of experience in this. I know people that can do a million things at once. I'm pretty good at it. I used to program and sing at the same time. It was really crazy. I mean, I can still do it, but I haven't done that in a while. But, there's things that we can do over and over and over at the same time. And then I know friends that only have a single processor, and it's sort of a medium to low strength processor. What they do with that processor is fantastic. It doesn't mean they're not amazing people. It's just they need to really pace themselves. And there's something really amazing about this process of simplification, or simplifying life, right? I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to call this episode. I could just as well call it saying no, because this is going to be part of what you're going to have to do depending on how overwhelmed you are. When you see a person who is focused and they are truly pursuing only one thing in their life that they love, I'm not sure that beauty within the harmony of life is more simplistically gorgeous than that event. Like, you find a guy that makes surfboards, and all he does is make surfboards all freaking day. Of course, he has a family and friends and that kind of stuff. But man, when he gets into his art or she gets into her art, they're in there and they are just making love to this fiberglass, right? You could name a million things. I used to watch my grandmother make quilts in her later years after the kids moved out. And my God, she was just a master at this. And we'd sit and we'd talk, and she'd just work on these things, making these patterns. She'd look up patterns all throughout history and find these windmill patterns and just do amazing things, and then hand them off to the kids who are like, thanks, Mom. There are people in careers that have been extremely focused. Like, I guess I've just talked about 2 careers potentially, but like a Steve Jobs, if the more you know about that guy, his utter and sheer focus is unbelievable. He didn't go off and host a television show. He didn't go off and play tennis semi-pro. He stuck with computers because he felt that they were one of the most important tools that the average human being needed to be able to understand and control. It's beautiful. That's why he's special. They cut everything out of their lives that doesn't have to do with their core goals in life, and then they focus. Now, the beautiful thing about being overwhelmed by a bunch of tasks is that tasks usually have a beginning, middle, and end. Some of them don't even have middles. You just got to go do that thing. Some tasks are reoccurring, right? I have committed to taking out the trash. Well, you know what? That's just, if you're that person, then you're going to be taking out trash for the rest of your life, and that's just it. You could trade. You could trade scrubbing toilet bowls for trash. But some of you will join a club. You'll join a cult. You won't even know it. You'll commit to a church more than the single Sunday. Maybe you're doing a Wednesday night thing and a couple other Bible studies. And, of course, it's in the name of God, so there's a lot of immediate guilt if you don't work this out. So I want you to look at your task list of your life if you're overwhelmed and simply itemize things that have a finite ending to them. Rate them difficulty-wise, low, medium, high. Then put a little star by them, or an R if you want to say reoccurring. Then put the priority on them. High, medium, low. Right? Do you have to do this? I mean, do you really have to do this? Is there another way that you could distribute this? Because taking command of your life and letting people know that you need help is probably one of the most amazing things to witness someone else saying. But a lot of times when we get overwhelmed, we believe that if we go in and say, you know what, I know I committed to this, but I simply can't do it that often. I just can't. We feel like, though, we're letting down everyone. In the end, they're looking at you like, we were wondering when you were going to suddenly be mortal, because the amount of stuff that you've taken is ridiculous, right? Once you get your map done, let's look at this. The low-hanging fruit, as they always say, is what we want to go after first. The stuff that we can get off your list, right? If you can make a phone call and get out of an obligation, especially a reoccurring one, and get a chunk of your life back, those are the easiest ones you can do. Simply apologize, say, man, I thought I was going to be able to do this, but I just can't. Now, sometimes there's a monetary investment in these things. You have paid to join a class. At that point, we want to evaluate whether or not the class or whether or not whatever you're investing in is really, truly going to be a black and white benefit to your life, or if it's a big crapshoot, or if it's just something you did to fill up your time. Yeah, I was bored back in February and I signed up for this thing, but now it's September and I'm overwhelmed and I'm not enjoying the class anymore because it's just the stressful thing that happens, right? I think about the class, I get this like tight chest feeling, and I don't want that feeling. It's better that your health is more subdued, right? You want that beautiful theme in your life, that cool, kind of groovy, silky, honey feeling inside yourself, right? When you think about your life, it's all about, maneuvering through the obstacles of life beautifully, and until you get totally bored of all the obstacles that you're constantly going around in this beautiful racetrack of life, and then maybe go off-road a little bit. But the difference is Because when you go off-road, I want you to know you're going off-road, right? You're going, well, I can handle about 3 to 4 things a week outside of getting up, feeding myself, my kids, whatever, going to work, coming home. I can put about 2 or 3 things in there after work before my husband or wife gets angry at me. And so you got these slots. You have a finite amount of things that you can do. Now, if you're self-employed, then you could have hundreds of things throughout the week. I understand that, right? We want to know, for you, what are the things that have to take place? And what are the things that are electoral, right? You've elected to pull them into your life. There are some things in your life that you will say, man, this is just what keeps me going, right? For those of us that go to smoke lounges, there is an amazing community in a smoke lounge that is very difficult to replace any other place in life, because you will typically find a smoke lounge that matches your personality. The owner's typically someone you have a kinship with, as well as the people who come in, because he or she attracts that kind of person. I say she because I recently met a woman who works at Babalu, knew everything about cigars. It was amazing. So you ladies, you're into this too. Once we know what your normal, everyday sort of, I always say obligatory, the things you have to do are, and you've got it really smoothed out. You know when you get up in the morning, you know when you have to be in bed. You know if you stay up an extra hour past your bedtime, you're going to pay the price the next morning and the rest of the day feeling a little bit tired. You figured out your diet. You cut out the monster drinks and the little energy drinks, and you just eat better. You no longer eat the cheeseburger. You pack your lunch, or you find a better place, some Whole Foods or something. Hate to promote Bezos bullshit, but we have Mother's Market here in Southern California. You find some place that's good, right? Then if you add something, which we're classifying metaphorically as an off-road thing, where you're just going to go, I'm going here. I've never been to Gold's Gym before, but I'm going to do it because I want my body to look better, or I'm going to join this, something that's just atypical to your normal journey. I want you to consciously know that you've pulled that into your life. Now, when you've pulled something completely random in your life, it's completely random. Maybe it's good for you, maybe it's not. Maybe you can do it, maybe you can't. Now, when you join Gold's Gym and you haven't been lifting weights for a long time, believe me, you want to commit suicide in the first week. But once you get that second week, you're going to turn into like Mr. and Mrs. Hulk. You know what I mean? Inside, right? You're going to feel really, really good. It's tough to build up those cycles. It's like you have to punch through a membrane that's fighting you. Even if you used to go to the gym all the time, man, going back, it's like, oh my God, have I eclipsed the years of which I'm supposed to be in shape? The answer is no. You just got to fight for the pattern again. But the little things that you do for yourself are much better, much easier to quantify, much easier to control in your life. The tough one is when you've actually partnered up with another human being to help them. Or maybe they're helping you. You're taking guitar lessons, you're taking drum lessons, you're learning how to paint. So they're helping you, or you're trying to do it the opposite direction. If it's for you, it's a little bit easier because you get to control the progress. You get to control the dedication to the process. If you're doing it for them, well, then it's like you better pick your clients really carefully, your customers, because if they're not fully dedicated to what you're trying to do, there's a chance you're wasting your entire time with them, and you might find out a year later that all the effort you put into helping them, giving them advice, contributing your resources, whatever, was just for nothing. And it happens, right? What you want to do in those particular scenarios, in my opinion, is to completely and utterly pull out, I would say give one phase of like some advice to say, look, I'm the expert. That's why you hired me. Here's my credentials again in case you forgot them. If they're not acknowledged and they're not revered, or they're getting advice from some other location, be it good or bad, that's fine. That's fine. It's their life. You got your life. The one thing you want to have on your deathbed is your life be good, not their life be good. I mean, you don't care. You care or you don't care. It's like, I hope you have a good life, but in the end, I got to worry about myself. If you're not happy, then everyone else around you is going to notice, and you won't be in a good place, as they say, right? So there are obligations you can make for yourself that have a catch-22 to them. This sort of paradoxical loop of time, right? It's like, well, I'm trying to get you to play the guitar better. I'm the teacher this time. And doesn't appear between practices that you're practicing outside of us being together. It's like you seem to be as bad as you were the day that you left my studio, and then you come back and it seems like you learn while we're together, but then you leave and you come back just that infinitesimal amount better. And you know, if you're getting paid to do it, then it's a business. Take their money. Whatever, right? Sometimes, you know, even money won't pay for that level of boredom. But a lot of times, you know, we'll give it away for free. It's family, it's friends, it's whatever. And it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. It doesn't really matter what age they are. You can have a 14-year-old not understand your investment as just as bad as a 54-year-old. You know, I will tell you, the more that you make it look easy to the other party, is to the degree you almost rob them of the ability to appreciate your efforts. And so you have to play this game of like, well, when you report what you've done or whatever, you have to say, well, I took 8 hours to make this happen. But I've had that happen to me where I've told the client, look, I was up till 2 a.m. editing this video. I was doing this artwork for 2 days. I didn't go to work. I didn't do anything. I could have had a vacation, and instead I dedicated it to you. And they still have no computational ability to go, oh, thank you. You know, it just happens. The good thing is that you get the experience. You get the actual boost in your abilities, right? But let's not totally drag out this process that you can feel happening right now. I'm taking you through a phase of recognition of these various obligations and dividing them up into species and that kind of thing. Let's take a little break and let's do the Tony Robbins. Let's go forward for each one of your lives and spend about 5 or 10 minutes just talking about what it's going to be like to totally simplify your life. When you find harmony and balance in your life, and again, let me remind you, you're the boss. You're completely the boss. You might not think you're the boss, but you are the boss. And we're going to talk about being the boss and delegating before this is over, when we get back in after the break. But let's just say the alarm clock goes off, or however you wake up in the morning, and for the first time in a long time, you realize you're not pissed off that the alarm went off. In fact, you would have accepted it going off maybe half an hour to an hour earlier because you're kind of ready. You got a good night's sleep. Whatever that is for you. Hell, before you got yourself simplified, maybe you needed 8 to 10 hours of sleep because you're so unbelievably mentally and physically exhausted. You needed that extra sleep. But now that you're simplified, oh, something magical happens. You only need 4 to 6 hours of sleep. For those of you who know someone in their elderly years, let's just say 70 or above, one of the most amazing things that happens in old age is that people don't need that much sleep. And it always fascinated me until I really thought it through. They live a simplified life because after that age, being employed at all is pretty simple, right? Very few 70-plus-year-old guys have got commitments all over the place, and they're running around trying to prove to someone who doesn't exist they can drink so much and they could do so much and all this other stuff. They have a house they live in, apartment they live in. They get up, they eat so many meals. They've totally figured out the harmony of their body. Over 70 years, they figured out what's going to give them indigestion, what gives them energy, what takes it out of them. And they just simply get to 10 o'clock at night and they're like, I'm pooped, I'm going to bed. But I'll be up at 3:30. I'll be up at 4 o'clock in the morning when everyone else is asleep. And then there's this peaceful, calm, beautiful little chamber that they're in that allows them to plan their day. Let's say you're not that old. Doesn't matter if you are. Still applies to you. But you get up, and harmony means that your home is clean. It's clean to your specification of the definition of clean. Your wardrobe is clean. And there's nothing better than that feeling, right? Well, one, your bed sheets are clean. Your house, your floor is clean. And today, your favorite clothes are ready to wear. You could go grungy if you want, or your kind of paint pants, or you can totally get really tricked out in whatever you're wearing. Your favorite dress, your favorite whatever. And the entire day goes like clockwork. And one of the misconceptions about simplification is boredom. It has nothing to do with simplification. Simplification is quite the opposite. It's the guy with the surfboard company. It's my grandmother quilting. They have picked the most rewarding things in their life, sort of their dream careers. And because they're simplified, they can focus 100% and they become above average. Maybe above average. We could call it expert level. They're revered for their contributions. They're revered for their capabilities, right? Everything has a texture in life. Your emotions have a texture. If you are very agitated, you have sort of a sawtooth texture. Everything's sort of rough and splintery, and you're sort of afraid to walk through your life because you are afraid of getting cut and bruised and, whatever, making a mistake in front of others. But when you have simplification and beauty and balance and harmony, everything sort of is polished. It's a polished marble. It's a lacquer finish. It is polished chrome. It's just beautiful. It's a soft cashmere. Everything is nice and wonderful. Whatever turns you on is what's going on in your life. The things that you engage in feel better. How many times have you had a conversation that went really wonky? You said all the wrong things and you didn't mean to. You could feel that you wanted to say the right things, but you just couldn't get the words to come together. And when you walked out of the venue, the place, the location, you have this angsty feeling in your chest, this tightness that you blew it. Okay. Well, what's it feel like when you get it all right? Holy hell, you're Babe Ruth. You just pointed at the sky and knocked one completely out of the park. No one knew where the ball went, right? And then you lay down at night. Damn. Second you close those eyelids, you are in your fantasy land, having the best, most positive, reinforcing, flying dreams you've ever had in your life. It happens. So this episode is about getting you to that harmony, okay? Now, some of you might say, I just need a little bit of tuning to get to that. For you, I applaud you. That's awesome. That's the best news you could possibly say. But some of you might be saying, my God, dude, you're right, but you have no idea how bad it is for me. I'm overwhelmed. And, finding your purpose is an episode that might juice some of the directives and the directions and the vectors that you need to use to simplify, right? Because you're going to find something you dig. So use up all the episodes. Just look up the self-help playlist on this channel and just cruise through the titles until you see one that's attaches to you. And if one's a little ambiguous, play it for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. My hooks are at the front. You'll know whether or not it's for you. Stop immediately when it doesn't apply to you. Move to the next one, right? I'm trying to build this channel like an encyclopedia. You go get the information you want at a particular time. You want alien crap, jump in the alien playlist, right? Ross Perot said something really important in the early 90s, and he's a billionaire. From the 60s, his business was converting printed documents back into digital form. So he had a digital scanner, scans it, and then he had human beings clean up all the errors in the 60s and 70s. So he made billions. But he said, look, one of the most entertaining things you can do in life is to save up for what you want. And we talked about this in the consumerism episode. Okay. The same is true for fixing your life and simplifying. Because like I said, there's a lot of things you can do immediately on day one. Make phone calls. You can simply finish tasks that are just immediate. You finish them and they're done. And don't obligate yourself to anything new. That's the other thing. Put the brakes on new stuff. Anyone asks you for a favor that you could give them, if it's life or death, you can go ahead and, commit and, You know that you're going to feel a way about it. You'll probably feel pretty good if you actually save a life with what you're doing, but just simply say, I would love to help you, man. I would love to help you, but I just can't. I'm so completely overwhelmed. I'm stressed out to the nines. Anything more, it's going to break the camel's back. So let me get, I'm working on it. Let me get this worked out. Maybe I can help you in 6 months. Don't say 2 weeks, unless you're utterly certain you can do it in 2 weeks. Don't set an expectation, because that'll give you angst the entire time, and that every little bit of angst and worry robs you from being able to do what you want to do with your life. It's taking processes up in your processor. It's like a little background processor on your cell phone that keeps checking what happened on Facebook today. It makes all the other apps slow, and it eats your battery. You don't need that, because that's what's happening to you. It's eating your energy. It's eating your subconscious, which affects your consciousness. Just know that when you start this process and you have any minuscule amount of improvement, you will immediately feel amazing. You will. Utterly amazing. I have this saying, and I've said it a couple times on the show, and you're more than happy to borrow it because I think it works really, really well. I just said it the other day. It's called chopping down the redwood with a hatchet. To review, redwoods are so huge you can dig gigantic holes through them and drive semis through them, and they still stand up 1,000 feet into the sky. That's how huge they are. So chopping it down with the smallest blade that you could possibly find is going to take months, if not a couple years. But eventually, the big, tall, gigantic, forbidding, formidable tree is going to fall, and it's going to make a big boom. Be careful. But every day you show up to chop down that tree, we love trees on this episode, so please don't take that too literal. You're getting closer. It will feel good. And for the first time, you've gained control over the process that's robbing you of this simplification, of this beauty, of this homogeneous existence with everything in your circle of life, right? I guess it goes without saying that if you had children and a spouse and good friends, and they haven't been able to see you very much, which happens to me all the time, once you get that simplicity, then you have all the time returned back to you. And that's beautiful. Now, let's say you're an employer. This is going to apply to family as well as roommates and that kind of stuff. But let's go from an employer standpoint. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was at Electronic Arts. My boss, Josh, I'll just call him Josh. I had started in a department, and I was starting to inherit other departments because the department heads that were my peers, 2 females, they quit. And so I got all the producers, and then I got all the artists. I've been all those things, and so I was very accustomed. I was already managing the coders at the time. And my boss had me come over to his cubicle. He wanted me to come over, which was fairly rare. He just had this unassuming cubicle, and I went over, and he sits me down, and he goes, okay. He goes, I want you to learn how to delegate, because I didn't delegate when I first got here, and I got super overwhelmed. I couldn't get anything done. The problem with the 2 women that had resigned, I found out that they hadn't delegated either, and so they were putting themselves at the focal point, saying, well, I don't trust any employees, so I'm going to put myself as the ultimate approval of all things going on in the department, and they got overwhelmed too. So everyone was waiting for approval to get anything done. Now, I was already a pretty good delegator, but having this guy tell me to do it reinforced it in such a way that I went at it in a very conscious way as opposed to a kind of a subconscious way. You may have to do that. If you can delegate, you have to delegate. There's a couple ways to do it, though, and let me give you some tricks. I was recently at a smoke lounge talking to a gentleman. I gave him this trick, and you should have seen his eyes double in size. And a big grin came across his face. He was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I'm going to use that. And I just pulled this out of the ether, let me tell you. I inherited 5 producers at Electronic Arts. One of them had just been chewed out, and told that he was on his way out. They were going to fire him. I did one-on-ones with all these producers. I figured out they were all extremely intelligent, extremely dedicated, and extremely knowledgeable. And I'm sitting there kind of looking at this situation going, well, why is this guy get threatened to be fired when he seems to be probably the most experienced and most capable? So I brought them all into a room after doing the one-on-ones. And I said, guys, tell me the very best project you have ever worked on here in this discipline. What went right from step one to the last step? I went down the line with each one of them, and they got to hear each other's stories. And there's a lot of crossover. A lot of guys went, oh, yeah, that was great. That was really cool. Yeah, we need to do that. And so I was just documenting everything that they said. Now, I need buy-in. When you take over a department of people, they got a new boss, and they're like, oh, Christ, a new boss. This guy could be a jerk, whatever. Our last boss was a jerk, and no one fired them. They just quit. So I just looked at them, and I said, okay, guys. I read it back to them. I cross-pollinated all the discussions, found a from to, beginning to end situation. I said, is this it? Yes. 5 people. We got 6 really quick after that, but I said, fine. This is the new policy. You just wrote it yourself. And according to you, this is the best it can be. They all looked at each other and went, awesome. I had complete buy-in from the very first day. And guess what? I wrote a 32-page document, writing it in stone, passed it out. The new guy who came in very shortly after that got that document, said, fantastic, I'll just do this. The guy that was about to get laid off, fired, whatever, ended up taking 5 projects at once. Nailed all 5 of them at once. And as soon as he got done with one, he took another one. He never got overwhelmed. He loved it. He was being trusted instead of being, distrusted and undermined by some hearsay. Here's what's cool about my boss. He also resigned too, and I got his job as well. He went back to that employee that he chewed out, and he apologized. And he said, I was believing some stuff that I was told from the person who quit, and you're amazing. I'm sorry. And the guy said, no problem, man. No problem. I don't even blame you. I understand. They made up, and it was fantastic, right? So if you have to take over a department, that's a little trick you can do to get complete buy-in and save yourself a lot of hassle and delegate, okay? I never had to babysit these guys. I checked in with them once a week. We had one-on-ones once a week, and they were being heard. They loved it. We really honestly didn't have a bunch of problems. Now, I'll tell you a second thing. I think I mentioned this earlier, but now you got the whole Paul Harvey to the story. This might mean a little bit more to you. The department was running so badly, unbeknownst to me, even though I just started in April. I started on April Fool's Day. Can you believe that or not? In this particular department, I found out later that the entire department was given a death sentence and everyone was going to be fired, including me, because we had functioned prior to my existence so badly that the number 2 in the entire company, a woman, was sick and tired of it, and rightfully so. Within a couple months, I went up there and I laid out the new plan. I'd actually created forms to say this is how we're organizing the work so everyone can understand how much money they're spending in their department and how much they get for their money. And I'll never forget it. Her name's Nancy Smith. She's now retired, I believe. She looked at me and said, she goes, this is what I've been waiting for 2 years. This is fantastic. And what I didn't know was she pulled the plug on the canning of the department. Boom. Now, that's a business thing you can do. Now, again, if you're the boss and you can delegate to anyone, there shouldn't be any resistance whatsoever. But you want to make sure that the person who's being delegated to buys into the process. If you have a crappy employee, you're just going to have to say goodbye. It happens, right? And let's be clear real quick, as a footnote, there's 2 types of bad employees. People who do great work but can't work with others, and people that do crappy work and get along with everyone. Either way, it's grounds for removal. You can give them as many warnings as you think. Don't give them any more than 3. Get them out and never hire them back again. Ever, ever, ever. I had to lay off a girl who had quit because of the previous bosses that had made her angry. And so I thought, man, you're just angry because these people didn't treat you right. I get it. I fought for her, got her back in, and within a day she tried to find a job in a different department to follow a boyfriend. Her whole department mutinied on her and told me to fire her. It was amazing. It's never happened again. But let's say this is a more of a family thing, a relationship thing. You're going to have to work with your relationship, work with your family to delegate tasks, right? Mom can't do everything. Dad can't do everything, right? If the kids are so young they're unable to perform any tasks, then it's between mom and dad, right? If you're just in a relationship of any kind, you don't have kids, well, you just got to divvy things up better. If you have a task that both of you hate, like cleaning toilets, well, maybe you have to trade off and on, but at least you get a week or two of relief from that one thing that you really dislike, right? I know this stuff is partially completely obvious, but sometimes we just need someone to remind us of the completely obvious crap sometimes, right? I know I do. The thing I want to drive home before we end this episode is that life just happens to most of us, and then we wake up to that element of life. I had the episode on philosophical growth. Okay. The theme of that episode is we philosophically absorb reality, absorb other people's opinions, and then we have our philosophy. But it's not something that we totally started from scratch, right? Same thing goes with your obligations. You will inherit obligations. You'll do something that your father did because you're a man. You'll do something that your mother did because you're a woman. And you just think that that's your responsibility. Maybe that's something that you enjoy. You like the definition. The man changes the oil in the car. The woman, I don't know, does something else. I'm not a woman, so I'm not going to throw anything out there. Just make sure that you take inventory of all of your obligations. And let me tell you, I hope it's painfully obvious. A pen and paper is really valuable in this exercise. Pen and paper is probably one of the most valuable things you can use every day of the week. There's that old saying that if you wrote down everything that sucks in your life on a piece of paper and numbered it from 1 to 10, the worst stuff is at the top, least worst is at the bottom. First you just write it down and then you prioritize it into the slots. It starts to look really manageable after you write it down, and you probably don't have 10. You probably don't have 5. Or if you have 5, you can't get to 6. It's interesting. But once you write it down and look at it, the mystery of its intent and its grasp on your life goes to almost zero. You're like, oh, I guess I just need to deal with that. It looks a lot easier on paper. And so you do it. This is definitely a weapon in simplifying your life, right? Now, let me say this. Whatever you got left on your list of things that you know you have to do, especially reoccurring ones, I want you to rethink how you accomplish the things that you're currently committed to, the things you have to do. What do I mean by that? Well, I have an episode way back in season 1 called Time Management. It goes into great detail about this, and I share my own life of how meticulous I am with this process. Might be a good episode to watch after this. I'm sure it's in the self-help section. Self-improvement playlist, right? You get up and you start cleaning yourself, most likely, at some point in the day. Maybe, you're not doing that very efficiently. What do I mean? All right, well, maybe the way you've organized your bathroom sucks, right? Maybe where you keep your towels is bad. Maybe the frequency by which you clean your towels is not good, so you don't have clean towels. You don't, keep track of your razor blades. You don't use Dollar Shave Club to make sure you got what you need. Maybe you only own a hairdryer and what you really need is a hairdryer and a hair straightener. Whatever. You're spending too much time doing a particular task, which is eating into everything else, because you need more time to do the more complex stuff, right? If you said, look, I got my list of things I have to do, and I did what you said. I marked them high, medium, low in terms of difficulty. And I've got something that's low, But when I wrote the duration of time it takes, and that's something you might want to do for some of these recurring ones, it takes 45 minutes to get ready in the morning. Now, I know there's a massive difference between the way guys get ready and girls get ready. We do. But whatever your time slot is, maybe you can shave 5 minutes if you're a guy. Maybe you can shave 15 minutes if you're a girl. Well, 15 minutes that can add to fixing yourself a cup of coffee to kind of give yourself a little bump in the morning, or just sit down and relax before you go to work. Or you add 15 minutes to your commute. You get out a little earlier to your car, and you get there a little earlier, and now you're looking good to the boss, right? Or whatever. Even if you're self-employed, you own your own business, maybe you get a little 15 minutes of quiet time before all the employees start showing up. There's something else I want to throw out there because it's become this amazing trend. I mentioned it briefly on the show, but not quite in this specific reference, which is called life hacks. Most of you know exactly what these are. They're YouTube videos on YouTube. You have something that you do ritually, and it is a pain in the butt. You don't like to do it. Let's just pull an example out of thin air. Cleaning a toilet. Who likes cleaning a toilet, really? You know? So you look up life hack, fastest way to clean a toilet, most efficient way to clean a toilet. Life hack, cleaning a toilet. And you find out what the pros are doing. These guys that clean up industrial toilets, like 50 toilets a night on 5 different levels or 10 different levels of a skyscraper. And they don't have all day to sit there and scrub with the toothbrush and make sure everything's perfect. But every time you go in there in the morning, the damn thing is completely clean. Now, granted, they get cleaned every night, and you're probably not doing that to your own, but maybe that's what you got to do. Take the things in your life, especially if they're ranked low in difficulty, but high in time consumption, and see if you can't find a better way. I'll tell you this much. It makes great conversation. You'll be sitting around some party, a smoke lounge, whatever you're doing. You're chilling out with your friend. You're taking a taxi cab ride, an Uber ride. And the subject will come up about, I'm really busy and I don't have this. And you're hearing someone else who hasn't simplified, but you have. And you're like, I was in the same thing. And you know what I did? I looked up on YouTube this video, and there's this super simple way to do that thing, and this is what it is. Boom, boom, boom. And then you've improved someone else's life. And if you can give it to an Uber driver, believe me, that Uber driver's like, I figured out how to wash the toilet faster. Really? Yeah. You do this. They won't even mention you, right? They kind of pretend like it's their idea. Whatever. The more this world simplifies, the better everyone's going to treat everyone else. It's kind of cool, right? For those of you with kids young enough to still learn from you, well, if you start doing it efficiently, they're going to watch you. You're going to make it a chore, right, Mom and Dad? Right? Hey, kids, it's time for you to clean the bathrooms. This is your week to clean them. You got to dust. Whatever it is, look it up. See if there's a better way. Talk to your friends. See if there's a better way. My grandmother, for instance, used to clean every article of clothing every morning. Maybe she went 2 days, super stretched 3 days, but I mean, all the towels, all of the clothing was all run through the washer and dryer that morning. I could wear my favorite outfit every 2 days, probably, because I spent the last year of my life in the Midwest living with my grandparents. Well, if you're a single guy, what do? If you're a single dude, you wait until all of it's dirty, and you take all of it to the laundromat, all of it to your washer and dryer, and then you're processing your colors, your whites, and your fancy stuff that has to be delicately washed, right? But here's the problem with that yours truly runs into all the time. That day that you planned to do the laundry, something else amazing became available, and you went to that party, you did something, and you missed your time. You could just forget. You could completely forget that every article of clothing is completely filthy. And so the next day you're like smelling your clothes to go, this is good. Maybe I can wear that crappy outfit today. And then that day is the day you meet someone you wish you looked like, $1 million. It's an employer, it's a customer, it's a person, whatever. I think the best thing about simplification is your destiny. There's a lot of debate of whether or not there's a destiny in anyone's life. I think the best way to say it from my experience is you do have things you can make your destiny. You do. You just don't. Because you don't have the time. Maybe you touch it. Maybe you think about it. Maybe you smell it. But you can't engage it because All this minutia in your life is eating you alive. The theme of this show is to think, right? Think about all the things you don't think about. And then, hopefully, after you've thought about things a particular number of times, it starts to fade into your subconscious. You get muscle memory for the things that you've made decisions about, and it starts to fade, and you just start doing it. It's a bit like when you learn to drive a car, right? When you first start driving a car, it's a little terrifying. You're grabbing that steering wheel, man. You're thinking about everything. Nothing's automatic, man. If you adjust the steering wheel a little bit, you thought about it, And then when you get 5 years into it, you drive all the way to work and you can't remember what happened. Did I get a bunch of green lights? I don't remember. Did I adjust the steering wheel a lot? I don't even remember. Did I go fast or slow? I don't have any idea. It's all automatic. I'm pretty sure I didn't break the speed limit, but what if I did? Jeez, I could have had a ticket this morning. Right? All those weird thoughts, but they all vanish, don't they? So for this particular exercise, we want to have sort of the heartbeat of evaluating things. What I want to really stress with you guys, pardon the pun, is the stress you feel in your chest, the angst you feel in your chest when things are kind of wobbly. Okay? You want to, in my opinion, I could probably make an episode on this, but it probably couldn't last an hour. And this has to do with simplification, if nothing else. You are going about your day. And when you go about your day, depending on how much you interact with people, especially people that mean something to you, you will invariably get to a point where something went wrong. You're not sure what it is. You got home from work, and you just have this weird electrical feeling on your skin, and it's not pleasant. It's called angst. It's honestly, it is a minor PTSD which is happening to you. Remember, PTSD is an event that has occurred that has been either low, medium, high, or intensely high, stressful for the human body, but you've lost the origin of that moment. For a soldier that experiences an IED, because the IED is erasing 10 minutes of their memory from the concussion to their brain, they wake up with injuries, they wake up with people lost, people passed away due to the bomb, and they're living in this horrific pattern that they have no origin for. So the therapy for PTSD is to get the soldier to go back to the moment and relive it so they can grasp it and they can say, oh my God, it was the IED that is the reason why I'm having all this angst. Now I can take all that's inside me, push it out in front of me, and deal with it. And once they figure out that that's how you heal people with PTSD, the success rates have been amazing. And I mean above 85%, okay? And they're using virtual reality today to recreate the scenes and with these head-mounted displays. We have these little micro PTSDs. You will have a conversation with maybe your mom, your dad, your spouse, an interaction with your kid on the way to school, where your kid's in that, sort of ultra disrespect mode. It just happens. And you were thinking about driving, it was weird, you were at work, you're trying to deal with a task, and you're just having this conversation. They're sensing your alienation to them, and they're getting frustrated. You're not 100% dedicated to them, perhaps, and whatever. You hang up the phone, you leave the situation, and you have this subconscious knowledge that something went wrong that you're not comfortable with. You need to make it right. You either need to make it right within yourself and gain a perspective that you can live with, or you need to go back to that person and say, sorry, we were on the phone there and I was checking out at the grocery store and I totally was not engaged in our conversation. Let's have that conversation again. I want you to know I heard you, da-da-da-da. And what's amazing is, like a butterfly that just flies to you, grabs the angst out of your chest and flies off and says, I'll take care of this. I'll recycle this into the universe. I'll make it positive again. But you're free. You're free of that angst. I want you to be aware that that is sort of a subconscious blocker to performing well in a particular day. And just what I do is I'll come home. I haven't had this happen in a while, but it happens. And I'll walk inside and I'll have that angst. And I'll be like, what was it? What the hell am I having angst over? And I'll start reviewing my entire day. Okay, I got up. I had conversations with that person. Oh, right. It was that. It doesn't immediately heal it all the time just to know what it is. Sometimes you have to talk it out. Sometimes you have to contact someone, send them a text, whatever. But a lot of times you can just think about it with yourself and go, okay, all right, I wasn't my best. They were pretty good, but I was being a little flippant, or I got pissed off and I shouldn't have. So I probably should say, apologize for that. But if nothing else, sometimes it doesn't involve another human being. It's just your own management of time. You're supposed to come home and do that report for work or for school, and you didn't, and you partied, and now you're like, damn it, I am so tired. It's 10:30 at night. I'm exhausted. If I try to write that report now, I'm going to do a shitty job. So you look at your watch, and you're like, well, crap, if I go to bed right now, can I get up earlier and get it done in the morning, at least put a dent in it, make myself feel a little better? So we want to think about these things. We want to identify them. We want to correct them. We want to build them into our character so that they function every day at an autonomic level, subconscious level. Simplify your life. There's almost no one on earth that can hear what I'm saying that can't simplify a little bit. Yours truly can simplify a lot, and I am taking great measures to simplify my life. And one of my things I'm simplifying is reducing my social media interaction. I'm reducing some client lists, just absolutely cutting them off and just saying, I'm done. The other thing I've done with the client thing is I'm starting to think about how I take on a new client that's more junior in whatever they're trying to do. Doesn't matter what age they are, okay? But I'm now going to put down some pretty stringent rules and say, look, if you want me in your life, you're going to have to take this seriously. And the second I feel you're not taking it seriously, I'm going to shoot a warning shot across your bow. We'll see how you react, and then I'm out. Because there's other people that could use my help, and they'll respect it. And you may be just too overwhelmed, and you need to simplify before you can pay attention to me. Whatever. It's my time. I get to manage it however I like. You're the same way. You're the same way. Clients could be your friends, your family, whatever. I think you feel me? Been cranking out a lot of episodes here. Been doing a lot of research and reading to spawn some pretty cool episodes. We're going to get a little bit of a break from some of the cerebral stuff. I think I have 3 in the queue that are fairly cerebral, so I think you'll enjoy them. But I am going to dabble in some just fun conspiracy stuff, I think, in the near future here, so keep your eyes and ears open. For all the new people that have joined, welcome. We've definitely taken on a lot of new folks recently. Again, if you're new, it's real simple. If you don't like the episode that came out just recently, never fear. Unless you've spent, I think it's like almost 16 days listening to this show solid, you got a lot of episodes you can go back and catch up on. So hopefully there's something in there entertaining for you. If you haven't been to deepthoughtsradio.com, please go. We have audio and video for those of you like podcasts versus YouTube. There's a locked Facebook group. Come on in, sign up. I'll let you in, and you can meet some of the most incredible people on planet Earth. Please throw your comments in the comment section, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. There's a Patreon account out there. I think we're at $25 a month on that, so appreciate every single one of you. I'm always just flattered when anyone joins the Patreon thing, because that's hard-earned cash out of your pocket that you're donating. And it does help. I've had to buy a new computer in the last 6 months here. Finally got it mastered, so I think I got the audio levels correct. I used some old hardware I had on the shelf to replace the old hardware I had, and it's all working well. So hopefully over the next year or so I'll get a 4K camera, a real 4K camera, and we'll blow this up a little bit better. But 1080p seems to work pretty good. Anyway, take care of yourself and someone else, and I'll see you in the next Deep Thoughts. Over and out.